Perdón. Hola. ¿Esto se mueve? Sí. Esto aquí. Ay, Dios mío. Nunca había hecho esto a solas con... Vamos a ver.
Ok. Estamos...
Ah, sí, has visto ya algo. Gracias.
Venga, va. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for being here today with us for this press conference with Javier Bardem, our Donostia Award. Kaixo eta eskerrik asko, Donostia sariaren prentsaurreko honetara etortzeagatik, gurekin dago noski Javier Bardem. Muchas gracias por su presencia hoy.
As I was saying, thank you very much for being here for the press conference for the Donostia Award, Javier Bardem, who wasn't able to receive it last year, but he will be this year. I'll give you the floor for the questions you may want to ask Javier Bardem, and there were a couple here already. Please. Yes. Hi, from La Ser, congratulations for the award and the fact that you're going to receive it a year later, which shows how much it's an important part from the speech at the Oscars and productions that you've done since then, and even your own activity as an actor and as a citizen, that commitment with your profession and also society. I'm not too sure whether for you this career has been indispensable for you and to being here in this life. Yes, I think that there's no other option. I don't think it's a will or a wish of doing anything. It's impossible for it to be the contrary. Within everyone's circumstance, I'm a very fortunate person, and I've been blessed by life, incomparable to other atrocities that occur in other places due to their circumstances. But from what one is and one can do from one's position, one does things and one learns things, obviously. One, above all, looks at those who know and make changes and chooses who to support and who to encourage. They're those people who bring about progress in human rights, in civil rights, social rights, and also there are those people that delay them or annul them. So therefore, we all move forward knowing we have to choose a side at the end of the day. Unfortunately, there are sides. I wish the world was a place without so much competition and so much rivalry, but there are things that are inadmissible and cannot be not reported or denounced. In that sense, I think that we have to have the motivation to deal with those issues that are unfair. Perhaps the other people don't think it's unfair, but this has to do with education. This started with my mother. This is where it all started, and it continued with my brothers and sisters and my friends, and with my profession, which is very aware of what it is to be human and the human needs that we all have. I don't know any actor or actress that not a person which is highly sensitive and empathic. And this is the beautiful side of our profession. My answer was very long and very boring, perhaps. And best of luck to the translation, to the interpreters. I forgot that there was simultaneous interpreting. Hi, Javier from Diario.es. Javier, you won the Silver Shell 30 years ago. Now with the strike, that was 30 years ago. It makes you look back. I don't know how the Javier Bardem has changed as an actor, as a person in these 30 years. And what do you remember of that Silver Shell you won? I just realized it was 30 years today. And I said, geez, 1994 I was 25, and now I'm 55, and it's 2024. It's quite an impact as time goes by. We know all of this, all of us, especially when you have kids, which are a mirror that to show you reveals time very extraordinary and very quickly when you look at them as time goes by. What has changed? The truth is, I have no idea. I hope not to cry tonight. I'm pretty sure I will, nevertheless, because the people that are going to give me the award are my brothers and Juan Carlos Corazza, people who I've just talking about them moves me, and here and I'm in a room with lights, which looks like an operating theater. But I'm glad. I love San Sebastian, by the way, but don't get me wrong. But it doesn't make you feel very intimate, does it, being in front of all of these lights? But the truth is, I'm very moved by the fact that someone can still think that I deserve receiving award and recognition. I say that very humbly. One does what one can, the best way that one can. Sometimes you do things better or worse. It's a disaster sometimes. But to give me an award for a profession which is a passion, and it's I'm very fortunate to be able to make a living from this. If there's this icing on the cake, which is even better. I lived that 30 years ago. I said, how fortunate to do Días Contados when I was 25 years and to receive an award 30 years ago. And I was it hit me quite hard. I felt I didn't deserve to receive the award back then. That was an impact. That's why it hit me so hard. Not too much has changed. I've not changed. I don't think that I deserve sincerely the attention I receive. No more than other people that have received it in the past. I accept it very generously. Yeah, that's true as well. Hi, Javier. Congratulations. I would like to ask you a couple of things very quickly. I'm not too sure whether you've read the biography of Kirk Douglas, but now I was looking at you and I was thinking about the title of his film. And no matter how many Donostia awards received that are reserved for the greatest, you're still the son of Pilar that you mentioned before. And the second question is, the fact that you made it big abroad, instead of disconnecting, does this connect you more with your own country? Does this mean that you look at it in a different way? Thank you very much. A philosopher says, it's me and my circumstances. One of the most beautiful circumstances is being educated within my mother, the womb of my mother, because the masculine side wasn't very present in my life. And I've recognized in her many things that 3 years after she died, I started to discover how important she was then and how valid and the need of their existence and her prolongation in my personal history and my children, which have to do with dignity, ethics, and being simple and humble and being empathic. Within this, I'm a big asshole. I've got days that are unbearable, but I don't want to miss the fact that I belong to a society and that individually we can do very little thing, but as a society, as a group, we can bring about some changes. And this, I've seen this very alive in my home with my mother. For a moment, my brother always says this, which is, it's an anecdote, which is very a lot of funny, but he talks a lot about my mother. We had practically nothing. She was a woman who was separated in a time where divorce wasn't allowed. She's an actress, three sons. Basically, she was almost called a prostitute and pursued by the right wing, which was terrible and present in the streets. She was worked non-stop to give us, meat on our dish and and some pasta with tomato sauce when we got lucky. But when they called at the door, every so-and-so, and we opened the door, and there were the people who were collecting money for women from Sahara, for example. She brought out the money. My younger brother said, "What the hell are you doing, mother? We've got no money to buy milk." And my mother was there giving what she had to give to the people that she had to give money to. So you see this. You don't see it. It's not taught to you. You see how as it happens. But through the action, it's not what we say, it's what we do. So therefore, in that sense, I'm not only Pilar's son, and I hope to die being Pilar's son and just being Pilar's son. Apart from this, I'll do my work, and I hope things go well for me. But that's my greatest condecoration, to be the son of that woman. The second question, people like to say things like, my mansion's in Miami and I live in the Bahamas. I've never lived in the United States. I've always lived in Spain, in Madrid. In my country, it's my people, it's my culture, it's my society. And sometimes I've been in the US for 4 or 5 months, no more. And that's where I live and where I work. And where I want to continue to live. And the truth is, on a day-to-day, politically and socially in Spain, I follow it continuously. It's the one that concerns me the most, because that's mine. It's mine. It belongs to me. Hi, Javier. Congratulations for this award. And I've got a couple of questions like Conchita. The first is, how do you move, whether you're comfortable or it's a bit, so much expectation? Is this hard for you because you're in a position, and internationally speaking, in your line of work? I'm not too sure. How do you feel observed? Whether does that affect you as an actor in your profession, basically? And then a second question is public service. Because people, directors, men and women in Spain, can they have access to Javier Bardem, Carla Simone, Jayone? Can they have access to you? Do you read scripts in Spanish scripts? Is there any hope apart from your very good friend Fernando León? Being observed, well, if you don't like being observed, well, you're fucked, really. The truth is, being an actor, because there's part, they always say this, that is, an actor needs an enormous ego, a feeling that he deserves to be seen and listened to. Otherwise, it's impossible getting in front of a camera or getting on stage. However, the work, the important and basic work, is that ego should disappear once you get in front of the camera or on that stage, and the actor, who's an instrument to tell a story, or appears, or, in this case, to portray a character, not me showing myself constantly. But I have this need of expressing myself, which I think is interesting and can be even entertaining for someone. I get on stage, I get in front of a camera, and that's where I disappear, and I get to work to be able to be the vehicle for communication. That's what an actor and actress does. The attention comes with the work. Having said this, I'm comfortable. When I'm not comfortable, I don't think it's comfortable in the situation. I'm here and there are 60 people in front of me looking at me. No one feels comfortable. It's not natural. But I coexist with this, or I live with this, in a very relaxed manner. When I choose to come here. I sit down. I've got an enormous respect for what you do. I know that there's a lot of love there, and this is great. And even in the street, when I'm on holidays with my family, there's some people that consider they've got the right to abuse the intimacy of people, privacy of people. No, that's where things change, really, for me. But I don't have a representative in Spain because a person who I worked with, Marceli, passed away. But I do receive scripts, I read scripts. The truth is, it makes it more difficult to get in contact with me unless there's a person. Perhaps I'll have to readdress that issue and have a representative here. Many of those people contact with my representatives in the US. who know that when we talk about work nationally, the criteria are different. That is to say, it's not the same thing to make a professional deal with big productions like Dune than making a film here. And they know this. You don't have to re-educate these people. This helps us very much when someone from here calls me. What I read, well, I like it or don't like it. Fernando León, apart from being a friend and the person who I admire and love, who's a great, a screenplay writer and also a great director. When he writes and thinks about me, what he gives me is some material which is truly indisputable. However, now I'm very happy and I'm looking forward that in January I'm starting to shoot a film with Rodrigo Sorogoyen, which is called El Ser Querido, with Victoria Luengo. And I've been talking with Isabel and Rodrigo. We've already sat down, we've looked at the material, we've rehearsed, so to speak, what are the guidelines of the story. It's about a father and a daughter, a re-encounter after many years, and I think it's got beautiful things to tell the story has to tell. He's a great director. Isabel is a great screenplay writer. And I found two people who are very beautiful. And I'm very, very looking forward to do this film in Fuerteventura.
Hola.
Hi, congratulations for the award. Before you mentioned that in vis-a-vis certain injustices you can't not say anything. We all realize where you've suffered very harsh attacks on you. How did you live through that? Whether you've felt regret or it's better not to say anything because it makes no sense. Well, I've thought about it, of course, because I'm a human being, but as I said before, there's no possibility to change. There's no situation in which one can create self-censorship, or because they win at the end of the day if you don't say anything. The front-on attack, for example, to a person who denounces what he considers to be the abuse of human rights or social rights is legitimized. Because the more we take a step back, we're giving more to those people who abuse those people who do their work. And when I talk about work, I'm talking about, like in my case, exercise their legitimate right to being criticized as a citizen. But obviously to talk about this leads me to Gaza, for example. What's happening in Gaza is completely inadmissible. It's horrifying. It's dehumanizing. I think that the government of Israel is the most radical government that the Israel history has ever had, that is committing crimes against humanity. They're committing crimes in international law, investigated by the international criminal courts. And obviously, the atrocious and terrible and horrifying and condemnable and attacks of Hamas on the 7th of October don't justify the punishment, global punishment, the massive global punishment that the Palestinian population is suffering. I think that impunity the Israeli current government has in its actions, that it takes place in Gaza and on the western front, for example. I think the U.S., Germany, U.S. and Spain especially, have to address the way they behave and the unconditional support. When we're seeing crimes taking place, crimes in human rights, crimes against international law, like, for example, prohibiting the entry of food, water, medication, electricity, using, as they say, UNICEF says, the war against children, and the trauma that's generating in generations. We can't be impassive vis-a-vis this situation. Whatever I say or don't say is not going to change anything at all. But I think that society is starting to understand that the legitimate right at the criticizing any government or state has nothing to do with, in this case, of the false accusation of anti-Semitism, or the case that one criticizes Hamas and obviously should criticize the Islamophobia, those critical attacks of Hamas. We're a society, we're a world, and we're all victims of what's happening there. At a secondary or tertiary level, but we're victims. And we have the right and the obligation, moral and ethical obligation, of denouncing what we could believe to be unfair or unjust. I think that it's important to also recognize that the current Israeli government, which is a government of the most radical in the history of Israel, ultra-nationalist, extreme right, is not absolute representative of the Jewish society or the entire Israeli society. The ultra-Orthodox Jews to reunifying the state of Israel in the Holy Land goes against divine will, and there are many voices in the last few months that have gone against the actions in Gaza as well as on the Western Strip of the Jewish. There's malcontent at an international level because there's got to be an international rejection, an echo of rejection of these types of policies and these types of actions. And I repeat, it's our responsibility, yours as the media and mine as a citizen, to be able to look and denounce those situations that we consider to be inadmissible, unacceptable, and to ask justice, the International Criminal Court or the UN, to condemn and to take to court the people responsible, Netanyahu, and the people responsible of the killings of Hamas, as is being done or as wants to be done. Now, where we're going is to a place which is a horrible place, which I think it frightens us all quite a lot, and we need to have a social voice here in order to put an end to this impunity and the unconditional support, which is nothing else but giving wings to abuse of international right and human rights, international law and human rights. This is an urgent issue, an action along with other horrible situations, but that are least talked about: Rwanda, Sudan, Ukraine is talked about more so. And just as horrifying in another sense is the climate situation. This is something that's irreversible. I think we're in a time that we've got to see what less good we're going to create, or less worse what we're going to make. We're going to try to do something which is as least bad as possible. I say something which is in fashion, I say, as an instrument, better said, and as a weapon of the right wing of the issue of immigration. The millions of people in the global warming, the movement of people is going to be unimaginable. If we're really concerned about that issue, put it in the political agenda and don't revert those areas of zero contamination, for example, in Madrid, to give you one of the places. We're concerned about immigration. Well, let's look at the long term, what's going to happen in the African countries, when it'll be impossible to live there at 55 or 60 degrees centigrade. I'm not too sure. But these are issues that concern me. And vis-a-vis that issue, and maybe the false accusation, for example, of the legitimate right of criticizing the action of the Israeli government and Hamas, of anti-Semitism, yes, but I think it doesn't really help calling someone a person who's anti-Semitism For example, anti-Semitism, which is something that's horrible, which is being expanded, just like Islamophobia in the world, and this is a very serious problem. I think this is a way of turning the attention to another, from denouncing to the person who denounces or reports this. I think that there's no one minimally sensitive in the world who's not seeing the atrocious things that are happening in Gaza as an urgent issue that needs to an immediate ceasefire, and of course to recover, to return, Hamas has to return the hostages, and the interlocutors have to be other people, because Netanyahu's government and Hamas will never come to an agreement. We've got to come to a place where there's a solution of two states or a binational confederate state. I'm not too sure where we reinforce the rights of the Palestinian people and their independence and their right to their land and their right to their culture and the security of the state of Israel. And that's of utmost importance. And we're seeing that Netanyahu, in order to avoid going to jail because of the corruption accusations of corruption, and because of the legal situation in Israel, he's taking this aggression to certain levels which are starting to affect all the Middle East. And that now the big important stakeholders of this conflict are starting to be concerned, because we're going to be affected directly, not until now, but they will be. So therefore, reflections on a day like today that doesn't allow me to celebrate the award. I receive it with very gratefully and very joyfully, but I don't have the spirit of celebrating it. It's impossible for me to do so, such as the world is at the present moment.
Hola, Javier. Gregorio.
Hi, Javier. From El País. I'm going to go more to you as an actor. You're talking about 30 years and 19. I remember the night at the Oscars with you. What has changed is when how you build your characters over these 30 years. I imagine that the Javier back then is different to the Javier of now. Hi, Gregorio. What's changed is, for example, what my young colleagues in the Monsters series, which is going to be premiered in Netflix, who are kids who are 21, 23 years old, who are extraordinarily well in the series. But when I went to the shoot, I saw that they were suffering incredibly. The weight of the series that talks about abuse, physical, emotional abuse, and maybe sexual, and I'll leave that there. That's all I'm going to say. They take it on their shoulders. It's their first important role, so therefore they go full on. And I remember sitting down with them. I said, "Boys, guys, listen. I portray your father, which is quite a curious character. If you're interested, you can see it in the series, by the way. We're going to live for a period of together. Troy, my wife, and the other two, myself. I think we must remember that we've got families who love us and who protect us and who are there when we call them up and who support us and who understand us, and they don't judge us. And that from there we should enter into fiction, because otherwise you're not going to be able to last for this six-month shoot, and it's not going to help you to do your job better, because the moment you get into your own trauma, you'll get blocked and you won't be able to see the trauma of the character you have to portray. And that's what's changed for me. Before, I would go in and I'd break my fingers. Exorcist, 1994, and it was I broke my finger. I said, what have we got to do? What have I got to do? How do we go? Now I don't break my fingers. I go, well, okay, I look at the scene and I recognize where the dangers lie, physically and emotionally, and I choose how to get into there. And above all, how to get out of there, because I think since when you work from your imagination and from fiction, from creativity, the work is much more powerful, and you can go further than adding more than just what you've got, thinking that what you've got is sufficiently interesting and powerful enough to satisfy the audience. And it's not normally the case. It's normally just you. So I think this is what has changed in these last 30 years since I was here when I received that award to the award I'm receiving today. I think we've got time for another couple of questions there and there. Hi, Javier. Congratulations for the award. I would like to ask you about the award. I've heard your tone. What do you expect of the gala and the warmth of the audiences tonight and above all this afternoon? And also, do you remember any anecdotes of the times that you've been in the festival in the last few years? Thank you. What do I expect from the audience? Well, I don't know. What do I expect? This is very quickly when you go out there and receive the award. They show a video when you were 20 years old or 19 years old, and your brother's there. A lot of things happen to be able to take them in logically. What will happen will be whatever happens, and there's a lot of people there. It's not because I'm there, because it's the opening gala, and I don't know what the effect will be. I'm going to try to be brief, because I don't like to talk too much. I don't like to do these things. Anecdotes. Anecdotes, but let me think. There have been some in the Bataplan, the discotheque here, the local discotheque, which are quite curious. That what I can see, because of your reaction, you can imagine what they're like. I was much younger then. I had a great time watching the sun come up. Stay up until the sun came up, because you had to wait until the newspapers stand up to see the criticisms of your work. That was the excuse. Now with the mobile phone, it's more difficult. You got to hold on at 7 o'clock, boy. First a film critic comes out. I remember with Lunes al Sol, with Fernando in the room, putting all the newspapers on the floor and asked for a big breakfast. And to see for the first time that the people like the film, which is a beautiful feeling, by the way, when you do something with so much interest and with so much love, you think that makes feeling. So, well, look, people have liked it, because sometimes people don't get it. Or sometimes the films are really bad. So therefore, when all of a sudden both things happen, it's a miracle. And it's a real gift. And that's a beautiful anecdote. And Fernando is here in San Sebastian. He wanted to come along. He didn't want to miss tonight or today. And more anecdotes, I don't know. My mother's kiss in the press conference when they said the silver shell. I remember I don't know who pushed me to go to the press conference. It was announced at the press conference. I didn't want to be there. They said it, and I was in shock. My mother gave me a big kiss, and I think I've got a picture at home. We look like boyfriend and girlfriend. It's not a mother's kiss, by the way, in this case. And I remember every time I see that picture, I see that beautiful kiss. Okay, last question in the back there. Yes? Hi, Javier. I don't know how many people see a series on a platform, but to see Succession, for example, it's a series which I think is marvelous. There was a great screenplay writers and great directors and great actors and actresses that make you want to see the series. Well, they've got to be compensated, those actors who are co-authors of that series. I think that's fair. And the issue of artificial intelligence escapes me, because this has just started and goes so quickly. There are things that make you feel quite afraid of artificial intelligence. But I think that the profession of an actor or actress is a profession which is complicated. We need to be, you've got to be lucky, a lot of luck. You need a lot of resistance and faith. Obviously, there are things that protect the Actors Union protects the actors and their rights. AIDSCE as well, presided for many years by my mother, but when my mother was there, she turned things around very importantly for the rights of national and international actors, recognized not only by me, but also by many colleagues in the world. These are important things that give us a lot of security and also give us income for those people that are not fortunate as me to be able to work with help, with aid, to pay their rent, for example, among other things. So the rest, when one decides to become an actor, one knows that one enters into a profession which is absolutely quite variable and not stable. It's unstable. It comes along with the profession, doesn't it? So I'm not the best example to talk about this because I've been very, very lucky from the outset, but I'm surrounded by people that aren't, and I know what that means. And also, I had a person at home who wasn't that fortunate enough, which was my mother. So therefore, we were waiting for the call on the phone when the phone was a direct line at home, and it didn't ring. And every day it didn't ring was a tough day. And when it rang, it was a party. So that's what we're doing. I'm not too sure. Okay. This is the end of the press conference. Thank you very much to you. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Javier Bardem.